Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Earthwalkharmony. Today I'm going to show you how to make a delicious vegan gluten-free ramen that is so amazing. It has plenty of fresh vegetables in it. It has a wonderful savory broth. You're absolutely going to love it, and I really don't want you to miss out on this, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a block of extra firm organic tofu, and I'll just open it up and drain the moisture from the packaging. Then it needs to be compressed in order to get the excess liquid out. So I'm going to take a dish towel, and I usually just use an old janky one for this. It's clean, it's just a bit stained. And I'm going to top that with a few layers of clean paper towels. Then I place the tofu in the center and wrap it up tightly and neatly. First in the paper towels and then in the dish towel. And I want to make sure all the surfaces are nicely covered to absorb much of that excess liquid that we really don't need. And then I weigh it down with my fancy tofu press obtained at the local hardware store. And I'm going to let that sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now I'm going to prepare the marinade. And I'm starting with 1 tablespoon of organic tamari, which is a gluten-free soy sauce. And 1 tablespoon of organic toasted sesame oil. Then I'm going to go ahead and whisk that up with my little mini whisk. And it's looking a little shy for a full, I think that's a 14-ounce block of tofu. So I think I'm going to go ahead and add another tablespoon each of the tamari and the sesame oil. And yes, that's looking a lot better. I want to be able to ensure that all the surface areas are going to be in contact with the marinade. Okay, so moving on to the veggies, I'm going to start by slicing some mushrooms. And I've already cleaned and dried them. They're brown because these are baby bellas. And I'm going to set those aside. And then I'm chopping up a few green onion tops for garnish. And setting those aside, then I'm using some organic sushi ginger for garnish as well. And it's immersed in fluid, so it is quite wet. And I'm just going to go ahead and dab it off a bit with some paper towels. And then I'll go ahead and chop it up into little strips. And so now I have my ginger and green onion garnishes, some mushrooms, some fresh spinach, and some fresh bean sprouts for my toppings for my broth. And I've decided to add a bit more color, so I'm matchsticking a large radish to add to the mix. And so here are my toppings, and this is looking really fresh and good. So checking on the tofu, I'm going to go ahead and unwrap it. And it feels pretty good. Most of the excess moisture has been absorbed, and it's ready for slicing. So the shape of this tofu block is a bit wonky. It's kind of catawampus, and I noticed this before compression, but it's more noticeable now, and that's okay. So I begin by halving and then quartering the tofu. And then I cut each quarter into thirds. And the reason I'm slicing it fairly thin is because the thinner the tofu, the more absorbent of the marinade it will be throughout. And this block of tofu is a little cracked and crumbly, as you can see. It would have made a great block for my vegan cottage cheese, but it will still work for my purpose here. And now I'm just going to further slice it into little bite-sized pieces. And now I'm going to patiently break up each piece so that all surface areas can soak up that good, delicious flavor. And I suppose you can call this a labor of love. Then I give it a good gentle stir. And I'm just going to go ahead and let that sit and marinate for at least 15 minutes in the fridge so it can firm up a bit and hold its shape while frying. And moving on to the broth, I'm adding 2 boxes of organic veggie broth to a stock pot. Along with a big swirl of tamari, a half a teaspoon of organic ginger powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground white pepper. Give it a little stir, set the heat to medium, and just let it do its thing. And I actually ended up adding more ginger and white pepper, so be sure to taste the broth and season it to your liking. And now it's time to fry the tofu. And since the marinade already contains sesame oil, there's no need to add any additional oil to the pan. And I'm just going to do this over medium heat and let the tofu take its time. And as you can see, it's browning and I hear it crisping up and it looks and smells delicious. So now I'm going to prepare the water for the noodles. And while that's heating up to a gentle boil, I'm going to lightly saute my veggies. And I'm adding a bit of my broth to the pan and just giving them a quick stir, and then I'll remove them before they get overdone. And I'll do the same with the radish. Just a very light saute. And the same thing with the bean sprouts. And for the spinach, I'm actually adding the broth first, as not to burn the leaves. And wow, that little handful just shrunk right up. So I'm adding more spinach. And that's a more reasonable amount. And now, getting to the noodles, the water is boiling. So I'm adding in two ramen cakes of organic brown rice and millet noodles, so totally gluten-free. And these noodles are great. So after about a minute, I begin breaking them up with 2 forks. And then I'll reduce the heat to a soft boil and allow them to cook for about 5 or 6 minutes. I prefer my noodles squishy as opposed to chewy. And so now I'll drain the noodles. And I'm going to give them a good vigorous shake, trying to get out as much of that soak water as possible. And I'm adding some to my bowl with tongs. And then I've added some broth. And I'm ready to build my ramen bowl. And wow, it's looking really good. And I add my garnishes. And as a final garnish, I've got some organic gluten-free French fried onions to sprinkle on top. They do this at my local ramen house. Et voila! How yummy does that look? I can hardly wait to dig in. As an aside, you could actually make this refined sugar-free as well by either omitting the sushi ginger, making your own sugar-free pickled ginger, using raw ginger, or finding a brand that actually makes pickled ginger that is sugar-free. All right, the moment I've been waiting for. I finally get to taste my creation. So let's check it out here. I can hardly wait. Looks amazing. Heck yeah. Oh my gosh. It's savory, it's umami, it's fresh, there's even a little crunch in there. This is so good. And you guys have to make yourself some, like, very soon. Another amazing creation. delicious. See you guys next time. Keep living the dream.